Good morning and welcome to this webinar, Enforcing Fire Safety Requirements in Europe, How to Ensure Stricter Compliance, organized within the framework of the European Fire Safety Week. My name is Alberto Lampasona. I'm Public Affairs Director at Europacable, the voice of Europe's leading wire and cable manufacturers, and I will accompany you today throughout this webinar. Product compliance with fire safety requirements has shown some deficiencies all across Europe. People don't get what they are promised in terms of fire safety, and this puts them at risk in the event of a fire. Furthermore, insufficient enforcement, as well as lack of commitment by economic operators representing the entire fire safety ecosystem, allows for a widespread dissemination of substandard products. This is why we have brought together today relevant players from the EU institutions, member states authorities, notified bodies, fire services, and the industry to identify common actions on how to improve fire safety compliance of products. Products compliance and fire safety can be considered two sides of the same coin. From one side, compliance of products with rules and standards is a prerequisite for ensuring fire safety. On the other side, only the proper use and installation of a compliant product with the required fire safety levels will reduce risks in the event of a fire. To set the scene of today's webinar, we have invited Jus Ebus, fire officer and fire investigator at the Netherlands Institute for Public Safety in Haarlem, to show us concrete examples of what substandard products and products not in line with national requirements for fire safety may cause. Just to provide you with more information about Jus started working for the Netherlands Institute for Public Safety in 2019 as a research advisor on projects regarding fire prevention and firefighting. Before that, Jus held various positions at the prevention section of the fire department Gelderland Midden for 19 years. Jus is also a fire investigator, a fire instructor, and a voluntary firefighter. Jus, over to you.
Good morning. My name is Joost Ebus, and I'm a researcher at the Netherlands Institute for Public Safety in Arnhem. I'm a researcher on projects regarding fire prevention and firefighting, and I'm also a fire investigator for the fire department of the region Gelderland Midden. And in the city where I live, Nijmegen, I'm a voluntary firefighter, and I use the practical experience I gain in our research. Unfortunately, my presentation isn't live because today, at this moment, is also the start of a new training course at our Institute for new fire investigators from the police department and fire brigade, and I have to be there. Sorry for that, but I hope you get my message. And I will start my presentation now. Okay. As a fire investigator, I see how products can be the cause of a fire, or how products can influence the fire and the fire development. And I also see the impact that a fire has in somebody's life or business. And when the fire trucks drive away and you are at the fire scene as a fire investigator, you are often there with the resident or the business owner of the commercial building. And in most cases, they tell me that the fire is an incident they thought would never happen to them. And they are in shock about the damage the fire did to their building and their personal items. Some of the fires are the result of human actions. For example, hot work at the location where insufficient safety measures have been taken, or fire during cooking at home. And of course, there are also fires, and the cause of the fire, people didn't play a big role in it. Example of these are fires that start in electrical equipment, a device, or a part of the building installation. When you buy a product, or buy a house, or buy a building, or rent a building, you expect to get quality that is promised and for which you have paid. And I will start with the most common fire in the Netherlands. It's a cooking pan with oil on fire in the kitchen. And it was in a house where people live together and get some care. And one of the employees tries to extinguish the fire with a fire blanket, the blanket you see on the picture. It didn't work because the fire burned through the fire blanket. And one person was injured because the fire burned through the blanket and needed some treatment by a doctor. And we as fire investigators was called to the scene by the crew commander because he had this doubt about the fire blanket. How can a fire burn through the fire blanket? Because it's in the kitchen to extinguish the fire when the oil gets too hot and there are flames on it. The incident was reported to the Netherlands Food and Consumer Product Safety Authority, and they already knew that some types of fire blankets were not suitable for extinguishing oil or grease on fire. And this was brought to their attention by the Dutch Burn Foundation, and the manufacturers of the fire blankets had already been given the opportunity to take action themselves and to inform the consumers. But that they didn't do that until the moment the fire in my region happened. And this incident was used to force the manufacturers to go public with the problem and to inform the consumers about the fact that the fire blankets are not going to do what you would expect them to do, to extinguish an oil or grease pan on fire if you put a fire blanket over it. And I wondered who supervises the quality of these products before something will happen. For several years now, we have seen a trend that more and more devices, toys, and means of transportations are electrified and have batteries in them. The number of fires caused by that kind of products with batteries as a power supply is increasing. And it's logical because we are using more and more devices with batteries, and that increases the chance that such a device is the cause of a fire. There is one big problem with these products, that is the speed at which the fire develops, and in particular the speed in which the toxic smoke is produced, the speed of the smoke and the speed of the spread of smoke throughout the building. This is the danger for people present in the building, and unfortunately in recent weeks there have been reports in the media that people have died as a result of a fire that started in a battery pack. And I was called as a fire investigator for a fire in the living room. And you see the picture on the screen. It was not a very big fire. It was a small fire, and the fire was some sort of overboard that had been on fire. And the mother of the family was sitting on the sofa in the living room and was watching the TV. The overboard was being charged next to the living door room. The door of the living room, and her escape route. The device ignited with a loud bang, and big flames and a lot of smoke came out of the device. And the mother had to jump through the fire and smoke to get to her children who were asleep upstairs. and she was on time and got the children out, and they all were safe. The mother had some smoke inhalation and was treated for that. A neighbor who happened to pass by on the street at that moment, they came out, dragged the device outside, and managed to extinguish the fire with water. And luckily, the position of the hoverboard was not near some very flammable materials, or else the fire would get bigger and bigger. And they bought a toy for the children, and of course they assumed it was a safe product. After a couple of incidents, the Netherlands Food and Consumer Product Safety Authority started to investigate these kind of devices, and they are sold in large numbers in the Netherlands. The researchers found that all the hoverboards that were examined had serious shortcomings. And I wondered, shouldn't we notice that before? Should we notice that before or after the fire? And I hope we notice it before a fire, because a fire in a house or in a building is not something we want. And in the examples I just mentioned, so the fire blanket and the hoverboard, it's still possible to take action. For example, a recall or a sales ban, if you're not allowed to sell product that have serious shortcomings. And the device you see on the picture, it was purchased in a store. And there are more cases that are questions about the quality of the products. For example, this electric massage pillow. There's not much left, and it's very difficult to see what happened inside of the massage pillow, because everything is melted together. And when I ask the owners, where did you buy the product? Often they tell me they bought the product online outside the European Union at a certain well-known web shops. I say the name. And it worries me, because it's difficult to get some information, and also difficult to find out, are there more sold in the Netherlands or not. And also buildings must comply with all kinds of fire safety requirements. A product that's a part of the building is tested in accordance with the standards. And a contractor must trust that the products that are used for the building also have the quality and fire safety that is promised. And in a hotel, a fire started in a vertical shaft adjacent to the central staircase. The shaft contained pipes and cables for the hotel, the installations of the hotel. And there were also cables inside for the fire alarm system and the evacuation alarm system. And they had function retention. That means if the cables are in the fire, they can withstand the fire for 30 minutes. The shaft wasn't equipped with fire detection. The fire was discovered when smoke detectors on different floors went into alarm seconds after each other. So suddenly there was a lot of spread of smoke throughout the building. And due to the speed with which the smoke spread through the building, the escape routes were blocked for a lot of people. And as a firefighter, the picture you see on the screen is not the image you want to see when you arrive at a hotel after a fire alarm. And Due to the fire in the shaft, the cables of the evacuation alarm system also burned out. And a part of the alarm system in the building didn't work anymore. Many of the hotel guests were unaware of the fire until the emergency services arrived on scene. This fire raised questions. Did the cables in the shaft comply with the fire safety requirements? And unfortunately, as a fire investigator, you don't have the time to investigate this. And none of the other parties, the insurance company or other persons involved, they didn't investigate it. And another problem is that everything in the shaft was burned. And we must be able to assume that the products we purchase comply with the fire safety requirements. The impact of a fire on somebody's life or somebody's business is huge. As a fire investigator, I will continue to report if I come across products where there are doubts about the degree of fire safety. But it would be better if we can rely on the fact that we buy fire safe products that comply. And I reached the end of my presentation. Thank you for your attention. If there are any questions, René Hagen is online at this moment, and if he can answer your questions, and if he can't answer the questions, I will get the question and answer it for you. Thank you very much and stay safe.
Jus just showed us the negative, if not fatal, implication of the use of substandard products in the event of a fire. However, it's not just the job of firefighters or market surveillance authorities to ensure products compliance. Economic operators representing the entire fire safety ecosystem have a key role to play. This is why we have asked USP Marketing Consultancy to conduct a dedicated survey on a specific product, in this case cables, that, as you can see, actually they are everywhere in our buildings. USP has reached out to electrical sector professionals all across Europe and assessed their awareness of their responsibilities within the framework of the current construction products regulation, and whether compliance and fire safety actually rank high in their daily activities. Dirk Ugenboom, a research consultant at USP Marketing Consultancy, is today with us. Dirk advises key accounts in construction, installation, and of improvement on potential research. In this role, he is often involved in strategic decision-making processes at the board level of USP clients. He works very closely together with project teams to make sure that they deliver on promises and help with recommendations. Good morning, Dirk. The floor is yours.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome. My name is Dirk Hogerboom. Thank you for the introduction. And today I will walk you through some of the key results of the research we have done. So without any further ado, I will start presenting the key findings. So basically, we have run a dedicated survey for Europacable, and we targeted electrical sector stakeholders. Before I start with the results, just very briefly, I'll explain what we do. We are a market research agency specializing in doing research for the construction, installation, and home improvement market sectors. We do this with a team of 70 people, and we are fully market specialized. If you look at our clients, we work throughout the business value chain of construction, and more specifically also for the installation market segments. Now for the topic at hand. So we were asked to look at some key elements to evaluate and monitor the knowledge, application and use of CPR in the European electrical sector. And the way we did this is that we did 1,311 online interviews all over Europe. So countries like Italy, France, Spain, Germany, Greece, and many more were involved in this study. And we reached out to various target groups: electrical installers, engineers, property developers, distribution, consultancy, and of course also manufacturers. And we have done this research in 2021, where you will see the results shortly. And we also have results for 2022, bearing in mind that the data collection is still in progress, but still we can already show you some comparisons. So for today, I would like to take you through the knowledge of CPR classes in electrical cables, the responsibility for CPR implementation, the actual CPR application, and some thoughts about non-compliant cables. Now, for the first topic at hand, knowledge of CPR classes in electrical cables. We asked the question, to what extent do you agree with the following statement? And the statement was, I know very well which CPR classes for cables are relevant in my country. Again, this question was asked to 1,311 professionals for the installation sector. Now, when we look at the answers, they could answer with I agree, I partly agree, I disagree, or I'm not aware of CPR for cables. Now, a clear outcome obviously is that more than 80% of the European stakeholders in the installation industry are aware of the CPR classes of electrical cables. In fact, if we look at the 2022 results, we see that this group is increasing. The group that agrees with this statement has grown, and the group that disagrees has shrinked, and also the group that's not aware of CPR for cables has decreased. So over the span of 1 year, we see a slow increase of the knowledge of CPR classes in electrical cables. It's already, of course, on a quite high level. Now, we also asked another question. To what extent do you agree with the following statement? As a professional in the electrical sector, I know how to apply CPR for cables. Now, if we look at these answers, again, the first thing that really pops in mind is that a very large group completely agrees or agrees with the statement. In 2021, it was 70%, it increased to 71% in 2022. But still, 20% of all of the respondents, of all of these 1,311 professionals in the installation industry, are not very sure how to apply CPR on electrical cables. So still 1 in 5 professionals is not very sure how to apply CPR on electrical cables. Now, we also ask some questions about responsibilities for CPR implementation. And the first question we asked was, how do you fulfill your responsibilities in fire safety for cables? Now, they had a couple of answer options, and the answer option that was most commonly chosen was, I follow the indications of the national regulation on fire prevention. 52% of all interviewees choose this answer option. Then another 30% mentioned, I use the national regulation as a guideline, but I always consider the overall fire risk. And 11% mentioned, I try to find the balance between fire safety and cost efficiency. Now, we also asked them the question, where do you search for requirement information regarding the construction products regulation? So 52%, the vast majority, mentioned the website of manufacturers. And this is not a really strange outcome, because we conduct many researches amongst various stakeholders in the construction and installation industry, architects, contractors, installers. And what we clearly see is that the manufacturer is getting a more important role in advising the professionals in the construction industry on a various range of topics, including construction product regulations. Of course, we asked this question to professionals in the installation segment, and we also see that the Europacable website was mentioned by 24%. 17% mentioned discussions with distributors and wholesalers. So basically the point of sale. Now, finally, we asked them the question, what information regarding the construction product regulation, CPR, do you use or download? So the vast majority, 71%, mentioned product data sheets. 40% mentioned declaration of performance. And 23% mentioned harmonized European standards. Now, obviously, as you can see by these percentages, they were able to choose multiple answers. But it's quite clear that there's a clear number one mentioned by the most, which is product data sheets. And again, this is not so much an outlier if we look at the total construction industry and all of the researches we've done. We clearly see that they still tend to use the product data sheets more often than, for example, declarations of performance or harmonized European standards. Now we've been talking about, let's say, some more background questions. Do they know CPR? What are the key elements? Where do they look for the information? We also asked them the question, to what degree has CPR been applied in your projects? And we asked them to indicate a percentage where CPR was applied of the total projects they do. So the answer given was that in 3/4 of all projects, CPR has been applied. So in 3/4 of all projects, CPR has been applied. And there were many reasons they could give. I've listed here the top 3 reasons for why they use or specify CPR compliant cables. And the number 1 and 2 are closely together. National regulations, 65% mentioned this. Fire safety, another 65%. So the idea of fire safety is as high top of mind as the national regulations. And then another 43% stated clients' safety. Again, they were able to choose multiple reasons for specifying or using CPR compliant cables. Now, it's good to hear, of course, that CPR has already been applied in 3/4 of the total projects, but we also started to ask some questions about non-CPR compliant cables. And the key question we asked is, do you think that non-compliant cables are used in your market? And now we see some interesting outcomes. Around 60% of European stakeholders believe that non-compliant cables are used. 60% believe that non-compliant cables are used. And if we compare the 2021 results with the preliminary 2022 results, we see that it's more or less on the same level. And I think this is quite important. Of course, this question was asked if they think, so it's more a question of what are the feelings within the market. But what we can clearly see in the overall construction industry, that it takes some time for regulations to really penetrate into the market. Furthermore, we are looking at a very conservative industry. And in a conservative industry, people tend to use what they've always used. And it's also an industry where margins are quite slim, especially for installers and contractors. So if there are areas where they could cut some costs, typically this tends to happen. And obviously, a question would be, well, if they feel that non-compliant cables are used in the market, where are these cables coming from? Obviously, you could think of some parallel import Chinese products, but also, of course, using cables that were not intended to be used for construction purposes. So I think here there is still a very a big step forward to be made. We also asked, if non-compliance cables are used, do you know where to report this? If you see that this happens, do you know where to report this? And clearly a large group, especially in 2021, said, no, I do not know this. 72% mentioned, no, I do not know if non-compliant cables are used, where to report that. 28% said yes. The preliminary results for 2022 show that this grown slightly to 32%, who knows where they need to report the use of non-compliant cables, but still 68% are unaware where to report this. So again, there are still some significant steps that need to be made. So this concludes some insights of the results we collected for Europacable. Maybe it's good to say that this research, of course, was done in full compliance of all of the market research regulations. And I think with the update in 2022, it will be very interesting to see the full developments over time. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Dirk. The survey actually clearly shows that there is still a lot to do to improve awareness and ensure compliance. As Dirk said, 60% of the respondents believe that non-compliant cables are used on the market, and around 70% of the respondents don't know how and where to report cases of non-compliance. Furthermore, still 11% of the interviewees look for a balance between fire safety and cost efficiency. So this is what direct and indirect users of cables have told us. How to improve and to have stricter compliance? What actors can do separately, but most importantly, what actors can do together to ensure compliance? Is a holistic approach possible when it comes to compliance and enforcement? These are among the questions we would like to ask our distinguished panelists that we have today with us. Yannick Lectalec, who is here with me today in Brussels on behalf of notified bodies, Richard Butler, representing market surveillance authorities, Eva Kukovec from the European Commission, and Nicola Scirocco on behalf of Europacable. Welcome to you all, and thank you for being here with us today. Well, our panelists will have 10 minutes for their presentations, and then there will be a Q&A session. Participants to this webinar may use the online chat box to submit their questions to the different panelists. But let's start with the perspective of notified bodies. Yannick Lectalec is a certification director at Effectis. Yannick joined Effectis 10 years ago and has been involved in fire testing and standardization of products for over 25 years. She has also been involved in certification of construction products for over 15 years, with a strong involvement in the work of sector groups and standardization. She is also a member of the Effectis team for the technical secretariat of FIEP. Please, Yannick, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Alberto. Thank you for inviting me. And I will try to, in 10 minutes that I'm allowed, to present the role of notified body and how we can enhance compliance. I will start by saying that compliance should be in, or is in our DNA as notified bodies. And our role are really defined in the CPR. And that's where you can find everything. I think you are all familiar with the CPR. And one important part in the recital is recital 48, where I would say the scene is set. For us as notified body, we have a few articles in the CPR that are really the bones or the skeleton of our work. This is Article 43, and it specifies the requirements on notified bodies. And one important point is that it mainly, I would not say push, but give a possibility to member states to have requirement based on accreditation. And accreditation is now the main tool for member states to for notified bodies, and it's according to ISO 17065 as soon as certification is concerned, and 17025 for testing. Another important part of Article 43 is Article 43.11, which makes mandatory for notified body to participate to standardization works, because this is the base of what we will need to use later on, and also participate to the activities of what is called the coordination group of notified body for the construction product regulation. And we also have as mandatory to apply the general guidance that are set up by the group of notified body, and also decision and different documents issued by the group of notified body. Another part important for notified body, which shows how we are involved in the system, is Article 55. And that's where the Commission is concerned in regard of the functioning of the group of notified body. Also, Article 55 specifies the role of member states in regard of monitoring notified body, and I would say here basically monitoring the participation of their notified body to the work of the group of notified body. Our involvement on, I would say, on a daily basis, what we do every day. I think you are all familiar with the AVCP system developed in the actual CPR, and I've taken the opportunity of a leaflet issued by the Commission. And I think this drawing is really clear, and everyone, I think, have seen them. And we are involved, in fact, in different parts. Of course, the assessment of the performance, that's third line that you can see on the fourth line, sorry, that you can see on the screen. And when are we involved there? That's for a certification system, 1+N1, and for testing, which is system 3. We are also involved in initial inspection of factories for the 3 first AVCP system, also continuing inspection and surveillance of the factory production control, and also in for a limited number of products, and I would say as an example, cable being one of them, audit testing, which is taking samples from the manufacturing plants and testing them in our laboratories. There is also in the CPR then the way to set up the group of notified body, and it's under the responsibility of the Commission. I have just summarized here how it works. You have the head is the group of notified body. Under the group of notified body, we have 2 entities: technical secretariat and administrative secretariat. I think their name talks for itself. Technical secretariat for technical matter, administrative secretariat for administrative matter. Under this, there are a different number of sector groups, and they are dedicated to specific product or specific product families, usually related to mandates, I will say, for family of products. And we also have 2 horizontal groups, one for dangerous substances, which is not really active at the moment, and SHO2 for fire matters, which is a group that is really active. In regard of the GNB, we have an elected president. We have full members that are national representative of the member states. We also have associate members from relevant European organizations, and observers, which are candidate member states, technical secretariat, and representatives from the Commission. Technical secretariat and administrative secretariat, they are contracted by the Commission, and renewal, if I'm not mistaken, every 3 or 4 years. And then we have the sector groups, and they work on similar way as the advisory group, with an elected chairman, full members, notified bodies with relevant interest, which means the ones that are working for that kind of product or fire, for example, for SHO2. And we also have the same way of associate members and observers, exactly the same thing as the advisory group. What are we doing inside the advisory group and the sector group? Our work is regulated by internal rules that have been set up inside the group of notified body and approved by the Commission. The rules are just dealing with memberships, way to work inside the GNB, and the sector groups. our objectives and tasks are to, the most important one, I would say, is to find a common interpretation of the requirement from the CPR and also for the technical specifications. We also have as an objective to have a common way of applying the requirements, and at the end of just to have this common interpretation, common way of applying the requirements, we issue position papers. And we also have now a guidance base that's 2 or 3 years ago, more than that, 4 years ago, I think it started. And the guidance base is like of a question and answer table where for all the different type of products and rules applying for the group of notified body. And all of these documents have been agreed inside the group of notified body, and we have always to find a consensus. And to conclude, I will say that CE marking decision shall not be notified body dependent, and that's why we have all these documents, all these position papers, all these discussions inside the advisory group and the sector group, just to be sure that we manage to reach that goal. And with that, I will thank you for your attention. And Alberto, I think I give you back the floor. Thank you.
Thank you, Yannick. Thanks a lot. And now let's hear more about the role of national authorities in ensuring compliance. We have here with us today Richard Butler, who is Senior Professional at the National Building Control and Market Surveillance Office of the Republic of Ireland. The office provides oversight, support and direction for the delivery and standardization of building control in the 31 building control authorities all across Ireland, through education and training, inspections, compliance and support, and the IT enabler and market surveillance. Richard has over 20 years experience in the construction industry, and he also holds a number of degrees in civil engineering, fire safety practice, and digital analysis and energy retrofit. Please, Richard, over to you.
Thanks, Alberto. So the National Building Control are working with industry to promote a culture of compliance with building control and market surveillance regulations as well.
Richard, I guess we have an issue. We cannot hear you.
Okay,
Perhaps you were on mute.
All right.
Okay, perfect. Thanks a lot. If you can start again.
So the National
Yes,
Building Control. Can you hear me now?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, so the National Building Control working with industry to promote a culture of compliance with building control and market surveillance regulations. So an introduction to market surveillance in Ireland. So the European Regulation 305 of 2009 prescribes basic requirements for construction work. And Ireland has a national market surveillance campaign in 2022, which is the subject of Product Area Code 24 for aggregates. And you can find the document there. Every market surveillance authority over the 27 EU countries will have their own market surveillance program, and it can be found at that link there as well. So the market surveillance of construction product regulations and legislation framework in Ireland centre around SI 225 of 2013, and then in 2020, we were made the National Market Surveillance Authority, along with the other existing authorities that were set up under SI 225 of 2013. So currently you have 31 local authorities that are market surveillance authorities. You have the national market surveillance authorities, and they cover the area, product area codes 1 to 35. And then you have the Geological Survey of Ireland, which covers product area 24 as a competent authority, and the National Roads Authority cover product areas 12, 23 and 24 as national competent authorities under the European regulations. So we have developed guidelines for market surveillance for all the local authorities and then there's just a good practice guide for market surveillance as well that's available on the European website, and the links are on the presentation that they're shared. So the economic operator and the construction products and the CE marking and the declaration of performance are all covered under the construction product regulations, and these are the 35 product areas, and you'll see that fire stopping, fire sealing, fire penetration, fire retardant products are on 35 there. My presentation is really about aggregates on 24. So the role of the minister in Ireland in the construction product regulations is to remove the product of non-compliance, and that so the market surveillance authority have to write to the minister where they identify products, or if an economic operator is not taking corrective action to take the product into compliance. So market surveillance, resources management. So a lot of them is activities is planned, and they are part of your day-to-day campaigns or yearly campaigns. A reactive is maybe responding to allegations of non-compliance, and random inspections is also key to ensuring that market surveillance is actually working and that you have the right to walk into any site or any premises that is actually manufacturing products in Ireland. So applications of risks for the market surveillance. So we had a couple of failures in Ireland on our underground flow fill, which falls in under product area 24, and aggregates in masonry blocks, and they have led to failures, and a small low value product with a high remediation cost is very risky in the industry. So the product area 24 is broken down into aggregates and applications and standards, and these are the some of the standards that's actually in the area code that are related to construction products. And we have added in standard recommendations, which are national provisions on the use of these standards that need to be included, and economic operators need to provide that information and guidance in when they're manufacturing the products. So corrective action, and we issue a market surveillance campaign. We give them the leaflets of all the information that they need to show that they're responsible under the European construction product regulations, and we write out to all the quarries that we could identify, and we give them the requirements as a manufacturer, an importer, or a distributor, and what they should have. We have about 500 quarries in Ireland that produce construction products that are part of the CPR, and we've inspected about 20% of them last year. For a small office of about 6 people, it's so the aggregate blocks and concrete masonry units, there was a couple of withdrawals of factory control processes, so we actually had to go and examine them, and we actually worked with the department to develop a guidance document on the marketing of blocks to 771-3, which give guidance on the block manufacturers. Also, market surveillance authorities throughout Europe have access to the ICMS portal here, where they can communicate product failures or that, and all market surveillance. So if you're making a complaint and you have substantiated, you could actually insist that the market surveillance authority publish that information on the ICMS, so that notifies that product throughout all the European countries. So these are the reports and standards and changes that we had to introduce in Ireland to combat these failures and products. And you can see it's not good publicity for nationally to have failures in construction products in an industry. So thanks for your time. If you have any questions, we'll take them after.
Indeed. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Richard. And well, as we said, the national dimension is not the only one when we think about compliance. The European Union and actually the European Commission has a major role to play in this area. We have today with us Eva Kukovec, Legal Officer at DG GROW, Unit H1, dealing with construction. Eva joined Unit H1 in 2018. Before that, she worked at the legal service of the Council of the European Union in an international law firm in Brussels and as a qualified barrister. Eva will be speaking about the role of market surveillance within the framework of the new proposal for a construction products regulation issued by the European Commission in late March. Eva, please, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much. As you mentioned, I was asked today to speak about the market surveillance rules in the new construction products regulation, especially linked to the question of enhancing compliance of products. So very good. Is now better? Can you hear me well? Very good. And you can also see my presentation. Very good. All right, so I will speak mainly about the market surveillance rules in the new construction products regulation. Although I must already say from the beginning that the question of compliance also, I think, touches upon, or is, how to say, enhanced by other rules in the current regulation and also rules in the new CPR, which has also in other parts, not strictly only in the market surveillance chapter, but also other chapters of the new regulation, I think, contain important rules that were intended to, and I think the Commission believes that they will help in enhancing compliance of the products, also in terms of the fire safety. Let me start with something which is very important, and it remains the same under the current and also the future CPR. You don't see the slide? So I'm here. Share. Do you see the slides now? Okay, so in case they disappear again, just let me know, please. So the CPR is about harmonized conditions for the marketing of construction products. It's about the free movement of construction products, common technical language, the CE marking of construction products, while the rules which are in place to ensure the safety of construction works, also fire safety, are national building codes. So indeed, one of the main rules and regulations to look for in order to ensure let's say, also the compliance and safety are the national building codes, which do indeed, when setting the requirements, rely on standards, essential characteristics set there, and the classification also fire classification set up in the regulations adopted under the CPR. But it is for the national rules to set the fire-related requirements and other safety requirements, the required level, and also where and how certain products should be installed. This is not regulated under the CPR. So in this is important to keep in mind. This also then means that also the market surveillance under the CPR, it is indeed market surveillance on the compliance with the CPR, which is done by market surveillance authorities, and it is also different there than building control. Building control controls the compliance with the national building codes, and even though it's in many countries, this is done by the same authority, maybe even the same people. These are two different exercises. Anyway, as I said, so also the compliance with the CPR, with the correct, if we say, declaration of performance, that the products do have the performance that is declared, that they do have the CE marking, let's say that they do have all the necessary documentation, they do kind of say reach the declared classes or thresholds. This is also very important. An important aspect of compliance, and that's why everybody was alerted when in impact assessment identified weaknesses in this respect and showed the need for strengthened and equal market surveillance throughout Europe. So this was one of the important goals of the revision of the CPR. So that's why there have been quite many new provisions. This is all in red, adopted only in this area, and many provisions were also improved. So I will focus only on some of them, on the most important ones. Also, I'll skip through some slides and highlight also some things which are not relevant strictly only for market surveillance, but connect to this, and they are, I think, relevant for the presentations that were done by the previous presenters. So I say, first, we wanted to strengthen, it's important to strengthen market surveillance. And for this one, maybe at this point already to mention the most, let's say, important things. We have set up more, let's say, streamlined provisions for non-compliance and safeguard procedures that will enable member states to, market surveillance authorities to act where there is, in all different cases of non-compliance. So it will not, now there was a problem that in cases of, let's say, not reached declaration of performance, there was also additional conditions that there was a risk for the safety of construction works, but this, for example, has now been resolved. So they are, in all cases of non-compliance, the market surveillance authorities can act, and there is very clear procedures established for these actions. In addition, so here on the bottom of my screen, so is clear sanction system. So there are actually penalties foreseen to be set up by the member states for different types of non-compliances. And these non-compliances are also now kind of listed in Article 90. And member states are also asked to set up a system of proportionate and fair penalties for these non-compliances. In addition, also important, member states are also fighting lack of resources, also monetary resources. So the new regulation has a possibility, says that market surveillance authorities, in cases they discover a non-compliant products, they can ask back for the retrieval of their costs from the economic actors. So for retrieval of the costs for document inspections and also for product testing. There is also foreseen a possibility of support by EU. So first of the coordination, common trainings, investments in equipment, joint projects, which would be supported, organized by European Commission and also financed to some extent. So this then brings us, I think, for next two really important, I think, new provisions, which will, in our belief, really enhance compliance, and they reach out on the, actually out of the market surveillance, directly a market surveillance chapter. And these are information, first one are information requirements for economic operators. So now has been set really for all the economic operators, means manufacturers, distributors, importers, authorized representatives, so to really provide information to market surveillance authorities and to cooperate with them. Also to highlight, it's also there for in case of imported products, there is here again repeated the requirement of the market surveillance regulation to have an authorized representative that has to provide market surveillance authorities with all the documentation, DOP, DOC, information sheets, instruction for use. So really to have also in case of imported products where the manufacturer might be in China or somewhere else. So but have a person responsible in the European Union that can provide all this information. And also the last one, so the rules for CE marking themselves, I think this is also very important in terms of what was already presented about the awareness of all the actors about the requirements under the CPR. So now it's set in the new CPR a very important obligation of the manufacturer to already in the CE marking include permalinks, which lead to the European, it will lead to the manufacturer's website, and also to the European, foreseen European database. Well, by one permalink, you'll come to declaration of performance, a new declaration of conformity, technical documentation, instructions for use. And also future, also additional information if there will be under the standards. This is also one new element. There will be a possibility to set up also requirements for installation, requirements for kind of inherent product safety. So I cannot go in all these details, but the new CPR also enhances the also standard system in this respect. And what is, I think, important here, the manufacturer now has enhanced obligations to share this information very clearly with the, let's say, users, both consumers and also professional users. And I think also from what has been shared now, this will contribute to the compliance and safety. And there is another really important also the obligation. So, and I think it's also important in this framework. Of course, the manufacturer has to ensure the compliance of its products, but now our new responsibilities of all economic operators, so also distributors, importers, and authorized representatives to check compliance of the products. So this doesn't mean they need to do again the testing, but they need to check if the product has all the necessary documentation and if the necessary testing has been done and if all certificates are there. So I think this will really enhance the compliance of the products. So they should not anybody contribute to not compliance of the others. And there is obligation to inform market surveillance authorities. in cases where there is actually danger for safety of the building or of people of property. So in other cases, in all the cases, in Article 19, everybody, so it's let's say all operators may inform authorities, but when the product presents a risk to human safety or environment, they shall immediately inform the competent authorities. And then, yeah, and this is, I think, also very relevant from the discussion where we had. It was mentioned that many people, they don't know where to whom to turn in case they kind of think the products are non-compliant. So that's why it has been, so in a, let's say, alongside as an alternative, also set up under the new regulation, the complaint portal, where any natural or legal person can share complaints of possible non-compliances with this regulation. So this will be parallel to member state reporting system. It will not, and it will really be just with the idea to have another possibility for those who don't know where to turn to. The Commission will just receive these complaints, and it will forward them to the competent national authorities responsible to dealing with them. Yeah, so I think I'm my time is running up, so I'll just skip through the next slides. There also market surveillance authorities are also enhanced in terms to possibility to turn to more specialized market surveillance, let's say specialized authorities. I already mentioned there will be streamlined procedures for non-compliances. Also, it's a clear setup procedure in case the products will be identified by market surveillance authorities by several member states. Then, this is also very important. So I think we also actually, with the wish to help member states to alleviate the lack of resources, the Commission is under the new regulation empowered to adopt delegated acts to establish minimum number of checks of member states on specific products, and also where relevant nature of these checks, and also minimum resources of market surveillance authorities. So this is actually really a provision which is meant to help national surveillance authorities, which are often not allocated enough resources by their home member state. And then there is more reporting and benchmarking, which will also, I think, for kind of contribute to stronger market surveillance, and to show if in case there will be really some lacks for certain products. And then there will be also information system for harmonized decision making to clarify the questions where many rules, there is a question how to be interpreted, how to be applied also in terms of market surveillance. And we believe that this system will kind of enable to clarify these questions, and then also enable more targeted and harmonized actions throughout whole Europe. And also the Commission will organize trainings for the market surveillance authorities. At least they will be at least once a year, and there will be exchanges foreseen for the staff of the member states. So just to see now, I'll go, I think here is many things which repeat, but I can, so it all leads to better market surveillance grip. All together what I already mentioned, more information, obligations to inform, obligations to report non-compliances, trainings which are here, clear sanction systems, minimum resources, minimum checks, retrieval of cost, finance support by European Union, And also, yeah, these are things which I didn't mention. There are also, these are related provisions. There are also obligation of the manufacturer to give information on the product upstream and downstream. So where he got the components, from whom, the bank accounts, all the information of addresses, and also downstream. So, and we believe this will also enable the market surveillance authorities to have a better grip. There will be more cooperation between market surveillance authorities. And so, as I said, we believe that all this will contribute to the enhanced compliance. This was also the goal, and we expect this to happen. So thank you.
Thank you, Eva. Thanks a lot. And last but not least, the perspective of the industry. Nicola Scirocco, chair of the CPR Compliance and Communication Working Group at Europacable, will present us what the Wire and Cable Association is currently doing to raise awareness of CPR compliance, educate the market, and promote cooperation with other key partners. Nicola has a degree and a post-degree in marketing. He started his career as brand and category manager, first in Unilever, later in Coca-Cola HBC. He covered roles with increasing responsibilities within marketing and sales. He joined the Prismian Group in 2011, and he has been recently appointed as marketing director for North Europe region. At Europacable, he has been contributing to various working groups since 2018. Nicola, over to you.
Good morning, everybody. Really honored to be part of this discussion, and my role today is to bring some considerations and initiatives from the industry. We started with a manifesto, so we wanted to align all the, let's call, internal stakeholders on the main objectives of our actions. And first of all, we realized that cables are fundamental for infrastructure, and it is really important to apply the up-to-date standards for safety, reliability, and fair trade. And also, we wanted to state that no trade-off between full compliance and non-compliance is acceptable. So we should always go for this full compliance in our industry. And also very important is also to push for a transparency of our information, and therefore education is really a priority for us. And then we also call for responsibility and the behavior in that regard. So we're encouraging also that all operators are taking the responsibility of their decisions and actions throughout the cable supply and the use of the products. Another keyword for us and key topic is collaboration and partnership, because we realize that, and you will see in my next chart, that many stakeholders are involved, and we definitely need to go for full compliance in order to have full reliability and safety. We also want to promote, and this is why we also commissioned some studies, we want to promote fact-based and practical information, so that all our discussions can be traced back to facts and studies. It is also important to have informed decisions, and so we need to educate the professionals to do so. We also mentioned that it is important to liaise with market surveillance authorities in order to support them. And we have knowledge, technical knowledge, and market knowledge to support also market surveillance authorities in that regard. Again, responsibility and contribute also at the personal level to safety, reliability, and compliance. And finally, which is very important, monitoring the success of these initiatives. We named our working group CCC, and it stands for Cable CPR Compliance. And we started mapping all the stakeholders, and you will see here the majority represented. So starting from population is a really important stakeholder in terms of safety, but also receiving the right products for their purposes. So safety and clarity. Of course, cable manufacturers within Europacable are aiming at having fair competition, having the opportunity to improve product performances, not in terms of design to cost, to fight under spec, but really to go for innovative solutions to be always up to date with their offer. Of course, we heard that notified bodies are involved in this topic together with the European Commission, and we are happy not only to hear from them, but also to contribute to their challenges. Market surveillance authorities, national associations, in order to really bring this kind of message at local level. Also, wholesalers associations are really interested in what we're discussing, also to boost fair competition, installers, and of course, insurance. So as you can see here, you see depict all the possible main stakeholders interested in our discussions and initiatives. In order to have our contribution on these topics, we decided to have two main activities. First of all, we wanted to get the attention and raise the attention, and also to educate our industry on these topics. And secondly, in order to make our actions effective, we also wanted to mobilize resources and create partnerships. And therefore, this is the result so far of what we did. So first of all, we built up an insight campaign, so a way to promote education and also raise the attention on these topics. And so far, we have a database across Europe of 35 registered users, and they're very interested in what we are doing. So this is really the core, spreading also to their colleagues all the messages they're receiving. And we have so far 300,000 page views. So that means this database of contacts are continuously looking at our contents to make a better job. Also, we are involved in core activities, so we have continuous relationships with national associations to make sure our messages are widespread also at local level. We commission surveys. You saw the one from USP, but also we have studies with relevant bodies to make sure we fact-based all our initiatives. And then we are building partnerships, EUW, so the associations of distributors. We have advocacy calls, conventions with them, newsletters, and of course, Eurofsa. To give you more details and numbers, here you see again the users, the page views, and we also active in the webinars. And we have quite an extensive topics we cover. And let me just focus on what we are doing. For example, in order to be very practical, one of the topic we cover is the inside the DOP. A simple checklist, as you can see here, you see some numbers, and this is really a tool we are handing in the hands of the professionals to check the compliance of documentation as a first step to be in line with the standards. So we are very descriptive in the way to contribute to compliance. And in terms of study, we commissioned a study to Europacable, and what we wanted to express is first of all to compare two cables, one full compliant also in terms of fit for purpose, and the other one which is bad cable because it was not fitting the purpose. And we saw the results of using one cable or the other, and we had an extensive white paper to describe from a trusted third party what happened, and we are sharing this kind of study again, which is unbiased, done by the Institute for Safety, and based on these results, we are trying to spread all the information we got in publications, in webinars, and we have also clear messages to regulators and member states. We have clear messages to installers, electricians, and the overall population. And again, the simple message is make sure you have, first of all, you source a fully compliant product, and secondly, make sure that the performances required by the application are in line with. This is the example I was referring before. So it's a simple checklist. Here you see a DOP, here you see a label, and what we are trying to teach and educate all the professionals is to go through this documentation and have a check. So finally, our call to action, and I'm really honored to represent the industry under Europacable. So first of all, as said, look for compliant cables. It's very important, it's mandatory, and we should go for this in terms of being always responsible for our actions. The second one, and you saw we are very active also to support this, is to make sure everybody is able to check the required performance, and we take it very seriously to support this in a practical way. And also have an active role in supporting all the stakeholders, especially market surveillance, EU, because as said, we have technical knowledge, we know the products, and we know also the way to market, and we can support this. So we really advocate also for a stringent market surveillance, as we saw in the analysis, in the survey. Our professionals are considering this as a key point, and we definitely need to support this. Thanks for your attention.
Thanks a lot, Nicola. Well, now let's start with the discussion, and we have a number of questions coming in actually from our participants. But let's start with Yannick. Just reading. Notified bodies are the art of product certification process. What does the group of notified bodies do to coordinate internally and to ensure consistency in the applications of the rules? Further cooperation with the industry could be foreseen in this respect?
Yes, I think so. We are already working in close relation. If we take the example of the sector group 22, which is related to cables, we have close relation with the industry because we know our part, I will say, as notified body, how to deal with compliance of products and what to do. But the knowledge of the products remain with the industry. Then it's really important that we have this close relation in our sector groups and horizontal groups as well, just to be sure that we are always in line with progress from the industry and their needs, their knowledge, and that's really important. And that's what we are trying to promote in all the sector groups, to have members of the industry participating as well to develop that.
So in this case, cooperation is key.
Cooperation is always a key, I think.
Word, actually. Indeed. And now a question to Richard, coming from Friedrich. So in your presentation, you outlined the efforts by your institution to promote a culture of integrity and compliance, as well as the difficulties in implementing it. What could it be done more to educate citizens and increase their awareness when it comes to products and building compliance? How to empower them? Richard?
I suppose really designers are the competent people employed by ordinary citizens to design their buildings and use proper materials that's fit for purpose, fit for use, and for their intended locations. And they are the people that they need to be guided by. And then people need to be trained and competent in the construction products that they're using and specifying.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Perhaps I have indeed another question to you. Let me check. There are too many questions coming. Indeed, from Camille. What role could the industry play in supporting market surveillance activities?
The industry and some of them have representative bodies, and we try and work with them to actually give guidance and that to their members, so that they can actually and keep up to date with standards and changes in standards. The harmonised standards are changed regularly, and there may be national provisions added into them because the European harmonised standard may not be slightly different for different countries. Like Ireland is on the fringe of the Atlantic Ocean, whereas most of the Europe is inland. You know, so the standard, the harmonised standard, just might not be fit for Irish conditions as it would be in, say, Poland or Germany.
Indeed. Thanks a lot. Now a question to Eva. Actually, it's the same question to you, Eva. What role could the industry play in promoting products compliance?
Yeah, thank you very much. I think it's really important, the information sharing. Between those who are putting the products on the market, to inform of all their characteristics. As I said, this is now by permalinks, and also to not to contribute to the non-compliances of the others. So where they are kind of certain products spot by other economic actors, in case there is a possibility they're non-compliant, to inform the market surveillance authorities. And also for the industry to, as you said, as you're already doing, to inform the especially professionals working with those products about the documents which are necessary to be received, and then also national requirements which need to be fulfilled for installation in certain parts.
Thanks a lot, Eva. We have also another question coming from Karel. Market surveillance is within the remit of member states. Having said that, the European Commission is pushing for greater coordination at European level. What role should the administrative cooperation ADCO groups play within this framework? Should their competence be increased? Over to you, Eva.
Yes, thank you. So I think that the role of ADCOS, so ADCOS has already been increased. It has been increased, or let's say emphasized and clarified by the current market surveillance regulation, Article 32. And it is also in the new CPR, the Article 74 also clearly specifies the role of ADCOS, especially in the cooperation between the market surveillance authorities, coordination, exchanges of staff, joint actions, as I said, common trainings, and also kind of elaboration of certain guidelines in cases where there could be different interpretations of the law. So I think this is the cooperation is very important, especially in the internal market where the products kind of move between the member states. And also to mention here, there has been also under the market surveillance regulation, also a European product compliance network has been set up, where also ADCO chairs participates and meet regularly, and that also has certain actually important now initiatives under the market for the product compliance, not just the CPR, but all the products under the new legal framework. So I think a lot of cooperation is going on the EU level, and I think this is important, and it will contribute to the higher compliance.
Thanks a lot. So still,
of the products.
So still coordination and cooperation, the keywords also in your answer. And now a question to Nicola. What role should other actors in the fire safety ecosystem, notably distributors and installers, play in order to ensure compliance? What is Europacable and Trade Association doing in order to bring them on board?
Well, thanks for this question. I think partnership is the key word because this translates into an open dialogue first and joint initiatives accordingly. So this is working very well. We organize tables of discussions with the major stakeholders. We contribute to each individual communication, so conferences, newsletters, position papers. So we also co-generate contents. So it is working well. The challenge now is really to bring this collaboration at local level. And again, it's a matter of mobilizing resources to be pervasive in our action.
Thank you, Nicola. And now a question to Yannick, coming from Maxime. So you mentioned in your presentation that CE marking decision shall not be dependent on notified bodies. What role should other actors play in this process?
Well, as notified body, we have a role as well, not only other actors. And what we are trying to do is to motivate more notified bodies to participate to our work, because it's not always the case. We have set up a training where we had a lot of participants, 400, which is not what we have in sector groups meetings usually. That's an important part. That's what we are trying to do in our group, I will say. But we also need to have close relation with all the other actors, which is, again, as we said previously, that's the industry. We also need to have close relation with the Commission, of course, which we have with the way the sector group are set up, but also with the ADCO and market surveillance authorities in different countries. Also with one actor that we forgot, I think, to talk about today is the standardization process, because CEN and CENELEC are also really important, because after all they prepare the documents that we are all using and working on. And the other actors that are really important, I think, to include, that's the users. And when I say users, I also include distributors and things like that. That's how we see it.
The entire actually ecosystem, going from manufacturers.
To make a long list of everyone.
No, but
basically, yes.
But perhaps it will be for a next webinar. In this case, we will have more representatives in actually within our panelists. But now I have a question. It's a personal question in this case to Richard, because I was quite a bit shocked by the results of the USP study, because indeed the study or the survey showed that 70% of the interviewees, or around 70%, they don't know where to report the case of non-compliance. What can market surveillance authorities do to increase the awareness of people and just to explain them where they need to go when they need to file a complaint in case of a non-compliant product is on the market?
Yeah, I suppose really there's about 70 market surveillance authorities covering different product areas, and construction products is really what our market surveillance in Ireland deals with. And we have a website, and people can send emails to us at support@nbco.gov, and we treat everything in confidence.
Thanks a lot, Richard. Indeed, so the question is really important to make people aware. A question to Nicola. Nicola, I mean, you have here today representatives from the European Commission, market surveillance authorities, notified bodies, fire services. So what we should ask them, how to cooperate with them?
Again, first of all, honored to attend this discussion. I think I can summarize our call to actions using two simple words: acknowledge first, and involvement second. So when it comes to acknowledgement, I think this refers to the fact that we want all the top stakeholders to understand the status quo in the market. That's why we are doing surveys, but also studies. We interview professionals, we collect feedback. We have a complete library. So the knowledge of the status, the situations in the market is fundamental. And this will trigger also the actions accordingly. And the second, the involvement, is to express our willingness to provide our industry with our technical and market expertise. And really, we'd like to contribute more by liaising with the Market Surveillance Authority to collaborate on the best way to carry out their important role. And we know the cables, their properties, their design. We know the go-to-market channels, so we can really contribute to this. We are also pleased to contribute with the EU institutions, and actually we've been doing this to support the discussion about the new improvements of regulation. We saw nice, interesting news in that regard. And again, we know our products and we know the markets. And finally, notified bodies are the important actor to ensure compliance. So we always welcome our involvement to add value to the details of their procedures. So probably in a nutshell, beauty is in the details always, and we can contribute to go into the details of our solutions, products, and our industry.
Thank you, Nicola. And actually, now a question to all of our panelists that could be summarized as follows. Today's discussion have shown that product compliance and fire safety are a common responsibility. All relevant actors have a key role to play, beyond being legally obliged or not legally obliged to do that. Would your institution interested in working together to agree on concrete steps on how to improve fire safety compliance of products in Europe? So notably coming together and suggesting developing common guidelines for all users, and having in this case all the entire supply chain and chain of fire safety ecosystem to promote and to provide their input to these guidelines. I will start with Yannick.
I would say that will be a really good thing to do. We are already doing some of it, I would say, but we can always improve. And I heard the word awareness, that I think we are not doing enough, possibly in that sector, because we always have users that doesn't know what the CE marking is covering, for example. And I think that working all together, having some kind of documents, guidelines, and so on, could be a very good idea and very good tool. Yeah. Some works too for the future.
Indeed, perhaps for the future, indeed. And what about you, Eva? What is the position or your position? What do you think how the European Commission could participate, or whether it's first of all willing to participate in this exercise?
Yeah, thank you very much. So yes, the Commission is of course, willing to participate in the exercises related to product compliance, especially fire safety. So we do have already the fire safety initiative, so ongoing, coordinated by the Commission with the discussion there. We would be, of course, also willing to cooperate further under that initiative, also wider. And as I said, so also the new CPR does foresee the under also different articles, the adoption of kind of let's say, path to agree on common interpretation, common guidelines, common approaches to certain questions. And I think this is important, and the Commission is for sure will be willing to support and cooperate in this direction.
Thanks a lot, Eva. What about market surveillance authorities? Richard, over to you.
Yeah, well, we're kind of a market surveillance authority and a national building control authority as well. So we're kind of see the product from the manufacturer side, putting it on the market, and then we can actually follow it through the construction phase as well. So a lot of products are made for a specific intended purpose, but the person on the other end that's actually using the product may not be fully trained in that product, may not fully understand that product, may not be able to fully install that product. And that is where manufacturers have a responsibility to ensure that people are trained in the products that they're selling and they know their intended use.
Indeed. Thanks, Richard. Nicola?
It sounds like a bridge to my point. Thank you, Richard. But yes, first of all, our main responsibility is to bring on the table the interest and the voice of the stakeholders within the industry. And as Richard asked, yes, we should also be a focal point to train, to inform the operators, the professionals, to make sure they do the right job selecting and also installing the products into the applications. So yes, happy to mobilize the resources in that regard, because this will create a benefit not only for the industry but for the population. As you saw, population is the top priority for everybody. So is the major stakeholder in all our discussions.
Thank you, Nicola. We have plenty of questions left, but due to time constraints, actually, unfortunately, we won't be able to submit it to your attention. unfortunately, yeah, indeed, we will have to move towards the conclusion. It has been. I want really to thank you all for your participation. It has been really a really interesting discussion, and hope we will have more time to further discuss how to better improve compliance all across Europe with all relevant actors. But now, before concluding, I would like to give the floor to René Hagen, a pillar of the European Fire Safety Alliance and the European Fire Safety Week, who will share with us his considerations. René, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Alberto. And apologize that I wasn't in time for the opening. I experienced today that traveling from Amsterdam to Brussels is even shorter than traveling 4 or 5 miles in the city center of Brussels. But I'm happy to have some time to tell you something about the importance of market surveillance from the point of view from the European Fire Safety Alliance. We as the European Fire Safety Alliance have made a fire safety action plan, and market surveillance is one of the action points. But I will tell you something about the plan itself. We made a few years ago a fire safety action plan for some reasons. The first reason is we have about 5,000, we don't know exact figure, but about 5,000 fire deaths in the European Union every year. And imagine when we have this amount every year in Europe due to floodings, or due to terrorist attacks, or due to flight incidents. It will be a real crisis. But fires are not a real crisis because it's 1 or 2 deaths every occasion. Sometimes we have a lot of fatalities in the fire. Now we all remember in 2017 the Grenfell fire in the high-rise building in London with 72 fatalities. But actually every week we have a kind of Grenfell fire in Europe, but those are safety fires with this amount of fatalities. So that's the first reason it's necessary to pay more attention on fire safety. And I told you about numbers, 5,072 and so on, but actually I don't know most. There are people, there are faces behind, there are people with families, with friends, with relatives, with children. So every fire is a tragedy. And the most important one, most of all these fires are preventable. So it's up to us, fire service specialists, people from fire service, people from the industry, people from governments, people from research institutes, who all are doing something with fire safety, to pay attention on this and to work on this. And that's what we do, together with a lot of parties. The action plan consists of 6 focus areas, and those focus areas led altogether to 10 action points. And those focus areas are the most important ones to prevent fires. We have most of the fires by vulnerables, by the energy transition, by smoke production. The smoke production of products is 10 times more than it was 25 years ago. And the smoke production gives smoke propagation. And that's more difficult for people to survive or to escape. We have a lack of data. The whole week, in this Fire Safety Week, in the Parliament where we were, and other workshops, there was discussing about figures. So figures, data is so important. And last but not least, communication, collaboration, working together. And that's what we also do this week, and that's what we also do in this webinar. Now, as said, one of those 10 important action points is market surveillance. And I'm not going to tell you something about market surveillance because you already heard some speakers and they know much more about it than I know. But we did last year a test with cables. Cables who comply with the standards and cables in Europe who don't comply, but you can just buy them. And this is one figure, and the one figure says all. On the left side, you see the cables that comply with the regulations. On the right side, you see cables you just can buy here in Europe in the shops, and they don't comply. And this picture is made at the same time after we ignite the fire. So after a few minutes, we made this picture on the left side and on the right side, and you see the major difference. And on the right side, you see the fire, and the fire makes heat. So we have flashovers, so more items are going to burn. We have the black smoke, people can't survive. And this says for us as fire safety specialists all, we have to work on fire surveillance. But there's another point I want to bring up, and it's not really market surveillance, but it's what we find out last time, and that is what we called fire unsafe advice. There are products, there are more or less safe products, but the manufacturers or the retailers, they advise us to use it unsafe. And that's another item we have to work on. And I'll give you just a few examples. Charging batteries for e-bikes or everything what's with lithium-ion batteries. They are not always safe. We see more and more fires, spontaneous fires, in those kind of e-bike batteries, and especially during charging. And we, as fire service, always said, charge them in the barn of the storage where you have your bicycle, but not inside your house. But when you look in the manuals, they said, please do it in your house, because that's 22 degrees, and that is the best, the most benefit for charging. But it's very unsafe. We know we have a lot of fires in upholstered furniture and mattresses. They are highly flammable because of polyurethane foam, but of course they don't burn by themselves. You need something that sets it on fire. And we see that very often it's a charger, a device from your telephone or your tablet or whatever. And so we always said, don't charge them on your sofa, on your bed or whatever. Do it on a hard surface, on a table or whatever. And we see you can even buy now sofas with a charger built in. So the cause of the fire, the charger, the problem is the flammable and highly smoke propagation of those products, they built in together. We figured out with carbon monoxide detectors. There are manuals. They said, please put them as low as possible. Unfortunately, there are a lot of them. They said, put them as high as possible because you need them. You need to put them high, not low. The carbon monoxide goes above and not to the ground, but it's in manuals. And the last, and I think maybe my colleague Joost Ebers told us something about it, is fire blankets. Fire blankets are very good, but don't use them with spent fires. Don't use them with the kitchen fires. The oil burns directly through the blankets. But you see there are still manuals when you buy them, and in the manual is you can use them on pen fires. That's not the case. So that is another item we now think in European Fire Safety Alliance next to the market surveillance to work on this. And this is what I really like to share now at this moment with you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, René. Thanks a lot. And now it's time for our conclusions. Well, what we have learned today and what could be a possible way forward. Let's start. So, product compliance, we say, and fire safety are two sides of the same coin. Then we also have learned that there is a clear and need for stronger and stringent market surveillance. Why? Because too many cases of non-compliance can result in fatal dangers for European citizens. We know also, we have learned that there is a lack of knowledge by relevant actors on how to report on in cases of non-compliance. So we need to tackle that as well. And then we have discovered that compliance and fire safety are a very common responsibility. All relevant actors have a clear role to play in this area. And what would be our next suggestion as a way forward? The need for concrete steps. In particular, we call on relevant actors, starting from the institutions and the actors here today with me in Brussels, to work together with the aim of agreeing on concrete steps. We can call them guidelines or a vademecum, but at least some guidelines in order to improve fire safety compliance of products in Europe. This is what we have more or less agreed today, but indeed it's also a question to you that are watching this webinar. Are you or your institutions or your indeed companies ready to participate and engage? And hopefully we'll be able to provide you and with an answer perhaps at next European Fire Safety Week. Well, thank you all for your participation. Please note that the European Fire Safety Week continues with a webinar recognizing fire safety in revised EU legislation starting today at 2 p.m. Have a nice day. Goodbye.